Lights On presents.
My greatest fear is that one day we find ourselves in a world where everything we eat is in the control of a tiny handful of corporations.
Katie Curran, an independent filmmaker and producer-director of Anartist Films, Greening the Revolution, cut her teeth producing documentaries for PBS and freelancing for national public radio stations. She was also a part of the Emmy Award-winning investigative news team at CBS. So, why does a young woman with both feet in the doors of national media markets take on the World Trade Organization? Because she feels change cannot occur through reform within a capitalist media system. An interview with Katie Curran.
Politically, I call myself an anarchist.
The billions of people who live on less than $1 a day, you can't tell me, or you can't go and tell them honestly that globalization has been good.
It was very difficult to film people's poverty. Difficult interviews were with the mothers and fathers and widows of the farmers in India who have committed suicide.
Hunger has been a classic way of controlling populations. Between 1999 and 2003, almost 25,000 farmers in India have taken their own lives.
पता नहीं जी मैंने तो दस्या नहीं है मैं तो गुम्मा थी उन्होंने आप ही करे मेरे घर वाले ने मैंने तो पेट कट दिंदा थी है.
So the people who are growing our food have been starving, and it is hurting the farmers around the world in the same way.
After the treaties were violated and the buffalo were killed off, our people started starving.
In interviewing people from indigenous communities, whether that was in southern Mexico or on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, what you learn first and foremost is how history has affected people's lives. This isn't just on the reservations, but for example, I interviewed a wonderful woman in Oakland who is a Black Panther. She was really active in the 60s and 70s. She said, my people would not be in the situation they are in today if they had their land. And many of the people do not understand the forces that are working against them. The WTO is one of those main powers in the world that is determining people's life or death.
Monsanto's vision is abundant food and a healthy environment.
Corporate agribusiness has taken over the United States farming system. But what we don't realize is how many US farmers are committing suicide because their standard of living has dropped so much. Their entire culture, their way of life has been destroyed because of corporate agribusiness.
Globalization is creating an environmental crisis, a producer crisis through farm suicides, and then a health crisis.
The general consumer does not know this.
The earth is definitely being destroyed right now, and especially because of agriculture. And a lot of people don't realize the connection between global warming, for example, and our food supply. Genetically engineered food, genetically modified organisms, biotechnology. What is happening is that food in the US is being produced very cheaply right now. One of the ways that that is possible is because we have huge government subsidies going towards soy, corn, cotton, and canola. And if you read the ingredient list on most of our food, most processed food, you will see corn syrup in almost everything. And all of that corn is genetically modified.
The general consumer does not know this. They just assume that what's coming off of the shelves are safe and pure.
These corporations that genetically modify food, such as Monsanto, have worked in conjunction with the Food and Drug Administration and the U.S. Department of Agriculture and gone up against these small organizers who are trying to get genetically engineered food labeled. And so what they have done is actually stopped the issue from coming to the voting booth, saying that by labeling genetically engineered food genetically engineered, you are going to interfere with the U.S. economy. Their second argument is that there's nothing wrong with genetically engineered food. We've never seen anyone die from genetically engineered food. But what many scientists are finding when they're actually able to do the studies without being sued, which is happening all over the world, is that they're finding that there are huge health effects to humans.
They just assume that what's coming off of the shelves are safe and pure.
The American public does not know this because there is a conspiracy, not a conspiracy theory, but a conspiracy between the FDA, the USDA, the US government in general, the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, the IMF, all of these huge powers getting together and working with corporations and agribusiness, keeping the truth from the American consumer.
This whole system of corporate globalization also is highly dependent on the military.
Globalization is converting agriculture into a police state. Because farmers protested, they were attacked and killed.
There are ways in which we need to be both trying to take down the current system that we have and also build up the system that we need.
The underlying problem that we are seeing in the abuse of the earth and the abuse of other people comes from the idea that we can own the earth and that we can own other people, this idea of private property. And so we're seeing land being stolen by corporations that say, oh, we can own this land. We're seeing water being privatized and corporations signing the dotted line and saying, I now own this water. We're seeing the DNA of actual plants, of seeds, being privatized and patented by these corporations. And so the idea that we actually can own a piece of the earth or own a piece of someone else, I think, is how this entire system of domination is created. The solutions are political. And I don't mean political coming from the White House or from Congress. I mean coming from the grassroots power of the people. The solutions that we are seeing in the world today are coming about by people looking at the earth and looking at other people as something to share, not to own. We're seeing this in Oakland, California, where the People's Grocery, a truck that has cheap organic food, is driven around neighborhoods in Oakland trying to share with other people cheap organic food to bring more health into their communities. And so people in Africa, the same thing. You will see groups of people in different countries meeting together on an afternoon to talk about how they can help each other raise better chickens, or how they can improve the quality of their corn. It's not just for them, it's for their community. And it's also realizing that our survival depends on sharing. It depends on interdependency. We can't survive just alone. Our survival depends on sharing.